I turned 70 this year, a milestone that brings with it a lifetime of experiences and lessons. Over the years, I've come to realize that as we age, the challenges we face often shift from physical needs to emotional ones. When you're younger, you worry about finances, career, and raising children. But as you get older, these concerns gradually fade, only to be replaced by something much more profound: loneliness. It has been more than a decade since my spouse passed away. We shared many years together, raised a family, and weathered the ups and downs of life. But now that she's gone, I find myself navigating the latter part of my life alone. I receive a monthly retirement pension of over 5,000 yuan, which is more than enough to cover my daily expenses. I don't worry about food, clothing, or shelter. My needs are modest, and I live within my means. But there's one thing money can't buy: companionship. My son is a good man, and I'm proud of him. He's built a life for himself with a career, a wife, and children of his own. Like many people his age, he's caught up in the busy rhythm of life, juggling work, family responsibilities, and the demands of modern living. I understand that he's busy, but it still hurts when I realize how infrequently we talk or see each other. Outside of holidays, our conversations are few and far between. Sometimes days go by without a phone call, and the silence in my home becomes almost unbearable. Living alone has been a difficult adjustment. The house that once bustled with activity and laughter now feels empty and quiet. The loneliness can be suffocating. I tried to keep myself occupied with hobbies, but there's only so much one can do to distract from the fact that, at the end of the day, I'm alone. After 3 years of this solitude, I decided I couldn't bear it any longer. I needed someone to share my life with, a companion who could fill the void left by my late wife. I turned to a matchmaking agency, hoping that they could help me find someone for a second marriage. I paid 3,000 yuan for their services, believing that this investment would lead me to a suitable partner. Over the next few months, they introduced me to several women, all of whom were around my age. But finding a good match was much more difficult than I had anticipated. Either they didn't like me or I didn't like them. The reasons varied. Some women dismissed me because they thought I didn't have enough money. Others seemed more interested in what they could gain financially rather than building a genuine connection. I've never been one to tolerate materialistic behavior. As soon as a woman brought up the topic of money or hinted that she expected me to provide for her financially, I ended the relationship without hesitation. I couldn't stand the thought of being used, and I wasn't willing to compromise my values for the sake of companionship. After several failed attempts, I began to lose hope. I wondered if I was destined to spend the rest of my life alone, without anyone to share my days with. Just when I was about to give up on the idea of finding a partner, fate intervened in the most unexpected way. I met a woman named Xiaowen, and everything changed. Xiaowen was 3 years younger than me. When we first met, I was 65, and she was 62. At first glance, she didn't impress me. She wasn't particularly attractive and didn't seem to care much about her appearance. She dressed plainly, and there was something dowdy about her that made me feel indifferent. I didn't see her as someone I would be interested in. In our early meetings, I kept my distance, acting cold and disinterested. I didn't want to invest my emotions in yet another relationship that would likely end in disappointment. But Xiwen was different. She noticed my aloofness and confronted me about it directly. She told me that she had no ulterior motives and that she was genuinely interested in getting to know me. "I'm not looking for money," she said. "I'm looking for companionship. Don't be wary of me." Her words surprised me. No one I had met through the matchmaking agency had spoken to me with such sincerity. I decided to test her intentions. "If I didn't have any money, would you still want to be with me?" I asked, half expecting her to hesitate or give a vague answer. But without missing a beat, she replied, "Yes. I'm not here for money. I want a companion." Even if you had nothing, I'd still want to be with you." Her words touched me deeply. After so many failed attempts at finding someone who wasn't motivated by material gain, I had finally met someone who seemed to value me for who I was, not for what I could provide financially. For the first time in years, I felt hopeful again. We began to spend more time together, and as we got to know each other, I realized that Xiaowen was exactly what I had been looking for. She wasn't flashy or materialistic. She was down-to-earth and kind-hearted. We discussed our future and decided that the best way forward was to live together under a split-cost arrangement for elderly care. We agreed that we would share all expenses equally and keep our finances separate. This way, neither of us would feel like a burden to the other, and we could enjoy our time together without financial concerns. After some time, Xiaowen moved into my home, and we settled into a comfortable routine. Our days were simple but fulfilling. We would go grocery shopping together, take long walks in the park, and spend quiet evenings watching TV. Neither of us was interested in extravagant lifestyles or material possessions. We didn't care for fancy clothes, expensive vacations, or dining at lavish restaurants. Instead, we found joy in the little things, cooking light meals together, sitting on the porch as the sun set, and sharing stories from our past. Living with Xiaowen brought a sense of peace and fulfillment that I hadn't felt in years. My life, which had once seemed empty and monotonous, became rich with meaning. We didn't need much to be happy. Our monthly expenses amounted to only about 1,000 yuan each, and we were content with our modest lifestyle. I felt lucky to have found someone who shared my values and who made my later years so enjoyable. But as life often does, things took an unexpected turn. 6 months ago, on a cold and snowy day, everything changed. Xiaowen had originally planned to stay home, but at the last minute she insisted that we go to the park so I could take pictures of the snow for her. She was excited, and though I was reluctant, I couldn't say no to her. So we bundled up and ventured out into the cold. As we approached the entrance to the park, I suddenly slipped on the icy ground and fell hard. The pain was immediate and intense. I cried out, but I couldn't move. My body felt numb, and I knew something was terribly wrong. Xiaowen quickly called an ambulance, and I was rushed to the hospital. The doctors were able to relieve my pain, but the fall left me with partial paralysis. I would never be the same again. At first, I thought that Xiaowen would be by my side, just as she had been before. But to my shock, her attitude changed completely after my accident. She was no longer kind and gentle. Instead, she became impatient and distant. She began to neglect me, giving me only minimal care. She rationed my food and water, only allowing me 3 cups of water and 2 small bowls of rice each day. Her reason? She didn't want to deal with the inconvenience of helping me with my bathroom needs if I ate too much. Her treatment was cruel and heartless. I confronted her, asking how she could treat me this way. "I thought you cared about me," I said. "How can you be so unsympathetic in my time of need?" But Xiaowen showed no remorse. "I'm not getting a penny from you," she said bluntly. "Why should I take care of you? If you want me to take care of you, you'll have to give me your entire pension." I couldn't believe what I was hearing. We had agreed from the beginning that our finances would remain separate, and now she was demanding my pension in exchange for care. I refused, telling her that I would never give in to her demands. Even if it meant suffering, I would not be manipulated by someone who had broken their word. Seeing that I wasn't going to budge, Xiaowen called my son right in front of me and told him that she could no longer take care of me. She insisted that he needed to step in. My son, caught between his job and his family, tried to convince me to give in to her demands. But I stood my ground, telling him that I would rather suffer alone than give my pension to someone who had betrayed my trust. Realizing that I wasn't going to give her what she wanted, Xiaowen packed her things and left without a word. She didn't say goodbye, and I haven't heard from her since. With no one to take care of me, my son had no choice but to send me to a nursing home. Now I spend my days in a small, sterile room, reflecting on the twists and turns that brought me here. What was supposed to be a shared journey in my later years has turned into a painful reminder of the unpredictability of life. The companionship I thought I had found was nothing more than a cruel joke. The old saying rings true. A husband and wife are like birds sharing the same forest, but when disaster strikes, they fly their separate ways. Thank you for listening to my story. I hope it has given you something to think about, especially for those of you who may be facing similar challenges. For those who haven't yet subscribed to the channel, please take a moment to do so. Together, we can continue to share these life experiences, grow from them, and find ways to navigate the complexities of aging with grace and dignity. Let's continue to grow old together, supporting one another every step of the way. I'll see you in the next episode. Don't miss it.